Biden and Obama get caught dissing Kamala at Ethel Kennedy's funeral in the latest blow to the Harris campaign. Jimmy Carter does not appear able to move or speak, but somehow cast his vote in Georgia. And MSNBC explains how wanting to have babies is fascist. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. The men for Kamala continue to dwindle. But before we talk about any of that, I want to tell you about Coin. Go to Coin, COIGN.com. You know, we do not have to wait until Election Day to start taking our country back. We can take it back right now. We can join the fight with Coin, the conservatives' credit card. Find out more at COIGN.com. Instead of funneling millions to the Libs like other credit cards, Coin advances conservative values, causes, and charities. Imagine the satisfaction of earning cashback rewards while fighting the liberal agenda. That is the power of Coin. Coin works everywhere Visa's accepted and comes with 100% US-based customer service and consumer protections. Not to mention, it's a great-looking credit card that you will take pride in using. It's bright red with We the People on the front. I'm telling you, this is how we fight for the future we want. One swipe at a time. Right now, get the woke out of your wallet. Start shopping with America's conservative card. Apply at coin.com, COIGN.com. Be sure to select DailyWire in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Really, before we talk about anything, I want to talk about President Trump's appearance at the Al Smith dinner. The Al Smith dinner in New York, if you don't know it by name, you probably know it by sight. It's that event that happens every election cycle when the presidential candidates show up in white tie and they tell jokes about each other. This has been going on in American politics for over 60 years now. Almost always the presidential candidates show up and it's lighthearted and it shows they get along. And there are a lot of Catholics in the room. Because it's mostly a Catholic dinner. It's hosted by the Archbishop of New York, the Cardinal Dolan here. There are a lot of Jews in the room because it's New York, so there are just a lot of Jews. And it's lighthearted. It's for charity. It's a religious event. It's really nice. Kamala didn't show up. Kamala did not show up because she couldn't take the heat. This was, 1 day, 2 days after that Bret Baier interview that was disastrous for Kamala's campaign because the Bret Baier interview was the first time that Kamala had faced any difficult questions. It's not that Bret Baier was hostile exactly. He certainly wasn't insulting or anything like that. He just asked her for the first time in this campaign that did not even really revolve around a presidential primary, questions that were somewhat difficult. So Kamala didn't show up. Trump did show up. Trump's clips are going viral. I'll just hit a few of them off the top because not only are they funny, but they show you something about President Trump's campaign and President Trump, the man. Probably his best clip of the night is when he talks about the man sitting right next to him, Chuck Schumer, looking a little bit glum.
They are panicking because, you know, the votes that are coming in very, very strong a certain way. I won't tell you what way that is, but Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? It looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
It's a good line. You see Schumer sitting there, truly looking glum, really looking miserable. And then when Trump makes that point, Schumer does one of his half-hearted, no, we are excited. You know, he's got his fists not in the air. They're like halfway up into the air. And it was not very persuasive. Then he makes this, he says, don't worry, Chuck, your party's so woke, you could be the first woman president. This hits exactly the right tone because it makes a little bit of fun of Chuck Schumer, but it's not a personal attack on Chuck Schumer. It's a joke about how absurd the Democratic Party has become. It's a joke about how the Democrats believe that a man can be a woman in principle. So it's not mean. It's not nasty. This, I think, is the real brilliance of Trump's performance last night, is it shows that he's evolved a little. He understands what this dinner is. People forget now, but in 2016, when Trump showed up to this dinner, he was brutal to Hillary Clinton. It was nasty. He ended up getting booed. And he didn't get booed because the jokes weren't funny. A lot of them were funny, but it wasn't the occasion. That wasn't really the tenor of the Al Smith dinner. This time, though, he hit the tone perfectly. Trump then turns his attention, of course, to Kamala.
But I don't think Kamala has given up yet. She hasn't. Instead of attending tonight, she's in Michigan receiving communion from Gretchen Whitmer. That's not a pretty sight. But Catholics, please don't be too insulted by Kamala's absence. If the Democrats, he says, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
And then he goes on, he got cheers for that joke. Why? Because that joke was not vicious or terribly insulting toward Kamala. It was not even a joke about religion. It was a gracious joke about the Democrats' attacks on religion, like when Gretchen Whitmer mocked the Holy Eucharist, mocked Holy Communion with that liberal journalist, Liz Plank. And she sat there on her knees, she knelt, while receiving Doritos on the tongue, as if that were Holy Communion. He makes a joke about that. That's a really biting little joke in there, because the subtext of the joke is, hey, Catholics, hey, people in this room, Kamala disrespects you. The Democrats in general disrespect you. She disrespects you by not showing up. She's probably with those other Democrats who overtly disrespect Catholics. But hey, listen, not me. Never mind. Move on. Then the nearest joke to a true brutal insult on the Democrats came when Trump was discussing white dudes for Kamala.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all, because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
That was the meanest joke of the night. Completely accurate, by the way, but the meanest joke of the night. And even that, I think, landed pretty well, because the Democrats actually, in principle, explicitly support all that weird stuff. So what the joke, obviously a simple joke, he's calling the Democrats, he's calling them, but the Democrats themselves would say monogamy is overrated. We need to be more open-minded. We need to embrace the sexual revolution. I'm not saying all Democrats, but many leading Democrats would say monogamy, it's really inhuman. We need to get on those apps that help people have threesomes, and we need to be open. We shouldn't be jealous, and a man shouldn't be possessive of his wife and all the rest of it. Saying, yeah, you guys are you're a bunch of and you look at the White Dudes for Harris, and that's how they look. That's how they sound. That's how they talk. He's totally right. Then one last little joke, one last little punch that I think, not just because Trump is a good performer and he's a comedian, he's been a comedian for decades, but I think this kind of a joke shows you why Schumer was looking so glum sitting right next to him.
Well, I'd better wrap up, because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. That's right, they've reserved many rooms, a lot of rooms, too many rooms.
Too many rooms here at this event is held at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It's one of the nicest hotels in the city. Again, why is it a good joke? There's nothing funnier than a guy explaining a joke, of course. But why is it a good joke? Because there's truth to it. Not far away from where this event was held, the Roosevelt Hotel, a storied, wonderful New York City hotel, was turned into a migrant shelter. After COVID, the hotel shut down. Now, one of my favorite hotels in New York, it's a shelter for migrants. I can't get a room there, but maybe if I went to Venezuela and crossed illegally, then maybe I could. The jokes landed because they ring true, up to and including Chuck Schumer's glumness. Right now, the race is Donald Trump's to lose. That's how it stands. Right now, the issues all break for Republicans. The issues of the social issues, the notion that a man can become a woman, that breaks for Republicans. The illegal immigration, that breaks for Republicans. Religion, norms and standards, that breaks for Republicans. And the group of people that actively support Harris is a pitiable group of people, and it's a shrinking group of people. And everybody knows it. That's why they're laughing. This is pretty high New York society stuff. When Trump was there 8 years ago, they didn't like him. This time they like him. There are a lot of people who hated Trump 8 years ago. And this time they like him. And maybe they still think he's a little rough around the edges, but this time it's just so clear. Even groups that are traditionally locks for Democrats, she's losing them. She's losing men. She's losing black men in particular, if the polls are to be believed. She's even weakening among women. Why? Because the conditions of the country, reality, right now, is favoring Republicans. Now, when reality is out of order, when the political situation is out of order, it could disturb your sleep, which is why I strongly recommend you check out Helix. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles. You know, folks, there's nothing quite like a good night's sleep. You can tell that I did not get a good night's sleep on the road last night. It is essential for facing the daily battles against the radical left and their incessant attempts to undermine our beliefs. How can you rest easy when you are tossing and turning on a subpar mattress? That is where Helix Sleep comes in. Let me tell you, folks, Helix Sleep has been a revelation. I've had my Helix for 4 years now. I trust it. Forget about me. I don't mind being uncomfortable. I'd sleep on a pile of rocks. So I like having a luxury mattress. But the way you know how beautiful Helix is that I gave a Helix for my son for it to be his first bed. Moving from the crib to the bed, and he absolutely adores it, and I absolutely adore it, and sweet little Elisa absolutely adores it, and they know that you're going to absolutely adore it. That's why they give you a 100-night trial and a 10 to 15-year warranty. Get the best in the business. That is Helix Sleep. If you are ready to revolutionize your sleep and wake up refreshed to fight the good fight, Helix is offering our listeners 20% off all mattress orders. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles, KNWLES, HELIXSLEEP.com/KNWLES. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Another way that you might disturb your sleep is to be aware of how much bizarre occult behavior happens today, which, if you want to learn about that and a way out of it, check out my interview with John Ramirez, the former Satanist.
I came from a family of warlocks and witches. I got the cross upside down here. I got scars here. I have another symbol here that is the 21 roads to the dark side was carved into my flesh, that the devil said carve that into him because he's going to be the gatekeeper of the demonic kingdom.
When you're buddies with the devil, what are the things that specifically that the devil's telling you?
False realities, things that you don't have, things that you want, things that you can't get. And one time, the devil was sitting on the passenger seat. And he said, there's a guy on the rooftop, grab him and sacrifice him for me. I tried to drag him into my apartment. I was half demon possessed.
But there was this guy there. The guy.
Yeah, no, real guy, yeah.
What happens to get you out of it?
Christ.
Go check that on my YouTube channel today. Okay, speaking of New York society events, there was another big New York society political event. That was the funeral of Ethel Kennedy. Mrs. Kennedy, the mother of Bobby Kennedy Jr., who's terrific. He's on our side now. And all the other Kennedys who are less terrific. But the reason that this became a headline-grabbing event is because Joe Biden attended and Barack Obama attended. And they were speaking to one another, and there were cameras present, so you couldn't hear what they were saying. The New York Post hired a lip reader. We now know what they said. And what they said confirms all of Trump's jokes, namely that the Kamala campaign is a disaster. According to the New York Post professional lip reader, according to the translation, Biden was caught saying to Obama, "She's not as strong as me." Then Obama responded, "I know, that's true." But he added, "We have time." And then Biden conceded, maybe. He said, "Yeah, we'll get it in time." But they don't think they're going to get it in time. Democrats, for the first time this cycle in a really serious way, seem to be resigned to the fact that they really might lose. They have all sorts of ways to rig it. They have all sorts of shenanigans up their sleeves. But this is the first time. I'm down in Miami. I'm here doing some events for Mayflower Cigars, if you're interested. If you're in the Florida area, Mayflower Cigars are at 4 smoke-in locations here, so you can go get them here, or you can, of course, get them online. But I'm here talking to guys who are generally leaning a little bit more right-wing. The cigar culture is about 2/3 to 3/4 conservative. There are liberals who smoke cigars too, but it's mostly conservative. This is the first time I've been talking to people where they think, you know, we really might win this thing. Even with all the shenanigans, all the rigging, Republicans really might have a chance. Now, the shenanigans are not to be merely dismissed. And I'll give you one example why. Jimmy Carter voted for Kamala Harris. Over the past 2 days, Jimmy Carter, according to news reports, voted for Kamala. Here's the headline from Axios. Jimmy Carter votes for Kamala Harris weeks after turning 100 years old. Now, you might remember a couple weeks ago, Jimmy Carter turned 100 and his family wheeled him out to see a military flyover. And I don't mean to be rude to President Carter. You know, we're all going in that direction someday. But the man should not have been in public. I think it was a bad decision of his family to bring him in public. He looks like a cadaver. He's not really moving. He doesn't seem to be speaking. He's been in hospice for like a year and a half now or more. He's coming up on 2 years in hospice. So no knock on him. We're all going that way. He's a tough old guy, but he is not really with it. Okay. He does not seem to be moving or talking or really communicating, which raises my question. In what sense did Jimmy Carter vote for Kamala? In what sense? What does it mean? The guy's been in hospice care for 2 years. What does it mean he voted for Kamala? He can't move. He can't talk. How did he vote for Kamala? I'm sure he would have voted for Kamala. He's a huge lib. He was a Democrat president. I'm sure if he were in command of his faculties, I'm sure he would vote for Kamala. But what do you mean he voted for Kamala? What I suspect happened is a family member of his filled out his ballot on his behalf and voted for Kamala. Now, you might say, all right, Michael, what's the alternative to that? Well, Jimmy Carter's still alive. He is still alive. He's still entitled to all the rights that every living person has. And we know that Democrat voters have the right to vote for many decades after they die. So Jimmy Carter, being alive, surely has that right. What are we going to do? Maybe this happens for older people sometimes. Maybe it does. My issue isn't with the one vote from Jimmy Carter or the one vote from your grandma, who maybe is not totally in possession of her faculties, but is still going to fill out a ballot anyway. My point is that with widespread mail-in ballots, with mail-in voting and early voting now being the norm rather than the exception, how many votes are being cast by people who are not really all that involved in voting? People in the household where one person just kind of fills it out for everybody. Voting where ballot harvesters show up to apartment buildings or hospice facilities or retirement homes or wherever and just kind of group homes and just kind of fill out the ballots or push people to fill out their ballots in a certain way and then collect their ballots. How many votes are really being filled out by the people who say they're voting? There's really no way to test it. We're not going to go and look at ID cards, and the Democrats say that ID cards are racist anyway. If Jimmy Carter can vote for Kamala Harris after 2 years in hospice, how else are people voting? I don't know. Call me a crazy conspiracy theorist. I don't think Jimmy Carter filled out that ballot. I don't think anyone really thinks that. Now, speaking of generational change, moving from the elderly to the babies, Joy Reid on MSNBC wants you to know that if you want to have more babies, you are a fascist.
I do believe that this election is a litmus test for American tolerance for fascism. The elements of fascism are rooted in this nationalistic drive for more babies for the state, for a strongman-driven nation, and a deep sort of state-based religiosity. So I do believe we have a media problem, and we do have some of our media that is leading people toward fascism. The question of America has become too soft and feminine I think that it's a fascist litmus test. So this question of whether the society is too soft and feminine, it was alarming to me that a majority of Hispanic Protestants agree, but that's not shocking. Immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country. This is one of the most terrifying things that you've heard a presidential candidate say, because it is straight out of Mein Kampf. 23% of Jewish respondents agree with that, because that's straight out Nazi talk.
So all this talk about how we should have a border, that's straight out of Mein Kampf. That's out of Nazi propaganda. All this talk about how America is a little effeminate and maybe we should have, some manliness to it, that's also straight out of the Nazi playbook. And then if you want to have babies, if you think that we shouldn't have a literally dying population, but should at the very least maybe replace ourselves, if you think that, we should do the thing that birds do and bees do and even sentimental trees do and, get together and get married and have a family, well, you're a fascist. That means, I don't know if you've been keeping a score for the past 5 or 10 years, the OK symbol, that's now a Nazi symbol. And a glass of milk, that's now a Nazi symbol. And now your babies, they themselves are Nazi symbols. This rant clarified to me, almost all of our social problems come from the fact that people won't have babies anymore. Almost all of our social problems come from the fact that generations ago, people used to have 6 kids. That was a normal size family. 7, 8 kids, maybe 10, 11 kids, if you were Catholic or Mormon, Orthodox Jews too. Then it became 3 or 4 kids. Then it became maybe 2 kids. Now millennials don't have kids. They have fur babies. They have dogs, but they don't have kids. Now there's an anti-natalist movement. I'm not just talking about people who struggle with infertility. Obviously they're not culpable. They're doing everything they can. Talking about the people who are actively choosing not to have kids, which is a lot of people. It's the people who are listening to Joy Reid who say, you want to have kids, you're a Nazi. Why do all the problems stem from this? Because if you don't have kids, then you're going to have economic problems. If your generations don't replace themselves, then pretty quickly you're going to have a problem with GDP. You're going to have a problem with productivity, which leads you to import a ton of migrants from all over the world. You import all these migrants, the movement of migrants into the United States in the last 60 years, the greatest movement of people in the history of all of recorded history. That's going to create some social problems because there's no assimilation. There's no, you're just importing a whole new peoples into the country. Then you add on to that the perpetual adolescence of people who just simply do not want to have children. That perpetual adolescence is going to mean that millennials and soon enough Zoomers are going to be marveled when they do things like adulting, when they pay their bills or go to the grocery store on their own. They're going to be slow to do the things that your grandparents were doing at age 14 because having kids makes you grow up. It's one of the clearest ways to mature that is available to us. When people don't have kids, what are they going to do? They're going to spend more time screaming and rioting and protesting and agitating in the street. They're going to spend more time in the vice industries. They're going to drink more. They're going to do more drugs. They're going to do more stuff. They're going to, idle hands are the devil's playground. Virtually all of the social problems, I'm not saying every single one, but virtually all of them are coming from the fact that people will not have kids anymore. I am not the one who is observing that is a political problem. I am also doing that, but Joy Reid is doing it. The left is doing that. The anti-natalists, the people who say, don't have kids because kids are bad for global warming. The people who say, don't have kids because then you won't be able to have as much fun. The people who say, don't have kids because you should use contraception when you sleep around and you shouldn't get married anyway. You should just go and have a string of pointless relationships. That's the left that is politicizing the issue. They're politicizing the family because the family is the basic unit of politics. It is politicized. They recognize the political significance of it. So which side are you on? The side that says babies are nice or the side that says having babies is for fascists? Now, we have an election coming up, and the election collection shop at the Daily Wire is something you got to check out ASAP before it's gone. The election is running out. Go to dailywire.com/shop. Are you sick of bland political merchandise? Daily Wire's election collection is here to rescue you from boring bumper stickers. Relive the Twitter glory days with the collected poems of Donald J. Trump. Browse every informatively blank page of Reasons to Vote for Democrats by yours truly, the book that President Trump called a great book for your reading enjoyment. And get the all-new Yes or No Politics, Philosophy, and Religion expansion pack to spice up your fall gatherings with conversation and controversy. Head on over to dailywire.com/shop. Now, my favorite comment yesterday is from Dimwit0000, who says, men with cojones vote for Trump, women with cojones vote for Harris. So true. That's a great, simple rule of thumb in politics. Now, speaking of things that are fascist and even Nazi, James Carville says that President Trump's decision to hold a rally at Madison Square Garden is reminiscent of the Nazi Party.
When I said that, I didn't know that he was going to schedule a rally at Madison Square Garden to mimic the Nazi rally of 10 February 1939. So we have, they're telling you, and by the way, if they win, they're going to correctly say, we told you in the election what we were going to do, and you voted for us. You have green-lighted the whole thing.
You now listen here, you green-lighted. If you go and you show up and you have a political rally, but your name's Donald Trump, you're a Nazi. Did you know that Donald Trump was drinking water and Hitler drank water? You're a Nazi. You're a Nazi now for having babies, drinking milk, making the OK sign, and for going to Madison Square Garden. Now, I guess I didn't know this, but in 2006, 2007, I went and I saw Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. And he played the hits, Piano Man. He didn't play Captain Jack, but longest time. It turns out that it was a Nazi rally. I didn't realize Billy Joel's a Nazi. I'd see the Rangers on occasion. Turns out the Rangers are Nazis. Turns out this is the most prominent entertainment venue in New York. But because James Carville's totally right about this, there was like a Nazi event there once back when fascism was a real thing, and there were actually members of fascist parties and Nazi parties. Because of that, now every event at Madison Square Garden is a Nazi rally? No. It's when right-wingers do anything. It's not about Madison Square Garden, it's about the right. Anything the right does. Drinking milk, making the OK sign, having babies, just being themselves, existing. That is for Nazis now. It seems half-hearted to me, though. When I listen to James Carville, yeah, you go down there and you go and you drink a glass of milk with the OK sign, you're a Nazi. Or you listen to Joy Reid, or you listen, I don't know. To me, they all kind of seem like Chuck Schumer at the table right now. They all seem kind of glum. They all seem kind of like, all right, we're desperate. We were desperate to replace our candidate. We replaced our candidate. That didn't work. Then we were desperate, so we're going to get our candidate to finally do some interviews, and then those aren't working. And then we're desperate, and we're going to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and the bottom of the barrel is we're going to call you all Nazis. Is that going to work? They don't even seem excited about it. As I said yesterday, it seems like every single political condition right now favors us. Other than the advance of leftism, other than the rigging of the electoral system that began in 2020 in earnest. Otherwise, it seems like every political condition favors us. If we can't win this cycle, I don't know that we can win. Now, I've been meaning to get to the men for Kamala for days and weeks. And now that President Trump has called them all a bunch of, I think this is the perfect opportunity. If you somehow missed the Men for Kamala advertisement that made the rounds just 2 or 3 days ago, take a listen.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family?
I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
So the first time I saw it, I thought, this must be satire. Like, hi, I'm a man for Kamala. And you know what I like? Gelding myself. That's right. You know what I hate? My testosterone and my gonads. That's what I hate. I'm a man for Kamala. It seemed that it was self-conscious about how ridiculous these guys sound. But the more I listened, the more I thought, no, maybe they're serious. There was you know what I support? In vitro fertilization and abortion and voting for Kamala. And so then I thought, maybe they're sincere. They cleared up all doubt when one of those guys went on CNN and explained the advertisement.
I come from comedy, and comedy comes from juxtaposition. And so to me, I was just riffing with my friends thinking, wouldn't it be funny if you took these ideas of so macho, you got to tell everyone how macho you are all the time, masculinity, and what I feel is a more real version of what it means to be a man where, you cry at a rom-com, you braid your daughter's hair, you go pick up tampons from the store if someone needs who cares? And so to me, putting those together, but treating it as if it's a real, rugged man political ad would be funny. And I still think it was funny.
I have never purchased tampons. I've been to many drugstores, and there is that aisle there in the drugstores, and sometimes I've accidentally started to walk down that aisle. And when that's happened, I will either speed up, try to get out of the aisle, or I'll turn around and I'll go to a different aisle. These guys, I think this is a product of our social media age, where there's the breakdown of a common culture and people are just living in their little bubbles and their little tiny circles. This guy, with the most offensive thing about the Men for Kamala advertisement is that these guys really think it's normal. These guys really think, they're making a joke about being extremely manly and masculine. They're self-aware enough of that joke, but they're not self-aware enough to realize that the things they're actually advocating are ridiculous. Yeah, I think fathers should braid their daughters' hair and buy tampons at the store and go support in vitro fertilization and abortion and then go vote for Kamala. Wouldn't that be so cool, guys? They sincerely think that. And I'm sure those guys, when he says, I come from comedy, I don't know what that means. Probably he hangs out with a bunch of guys who took an improv class or something in LA. I assume they're from blue states. And these guys really do only hang out with guys who braid girls' hair and purchase tampons. I mean, the vice presidential nominee, Kamala's running mate, put tampons in an elementary school boys' bathroom. In all of the elementary school boys' bathrooms in Minnesota. These are guys who really believe that it is normal to sit around and drink kombucha and talk about your wife's boyfriend and go buy tampons and all the rest of it. They think it's normal because they're living in a little bubble in their own little echo chamber. They don't realize how bizarre this is playing in Peoria. It reminds me of a very prominent left-wing communist activist, Antonio Gramsci, who was an Italian communist who inspired a lot of the communists and neo-communists, cultural Marxists, all of the people who in the middle of the 20th century, specifically with the rise of the New Left, were inspired by the Marxist tradition. Antonio Gramsci said, if you want to have a successful revolution, you have to hold on to the common sense. You can't lose the common sense of the people, because then you're going to have all these radical revolutionaries with all of their theories, and they're going to try to whip up the masses into a revolutionary frenzy. And the masses of people are going to say, yeah, no thanks. We like our communities. We like our standards. We like our norms. We like our way of life. We don't want your stupid theories. Now, the most prominent man for Kamala, Tim Walz, actually has the audacity to accuse J.D. Vance of cosplaying as a cowboy. The party that enshrines as a civil right putting on a silly costume and pretending to be something you're not has the audacity to accuse another man of cosplaying. But we don't have time to get to it right now. So that's my little tease. We'll get to it on Monday. Hopefully when my voice has recovered from whatever this is. I don't think it's just the cigars. I smoke a lot of cigars regularly. I think I don't know. It's because I'm too jubilant. I think it's because I'm screaming for joy at the possibility that President Trump really might pull this one out, that the Democrats really might be going down. Some joy. Maybe it's because I was laughing so raucously at Matt's new movie, Am I Racist? In just 10 days, Matt Walsh's hit comedy, Am I Racist, is coming home to Daily Wire Plus. That's right. October 28th is your first chance to stream the #1 documentary of the decade that's still verified hot on Rotten Tomatoes with a 97% audience score. But Daily Wire Plus is the only place you can stream Am I Racist, starting October 28th. If you're not a Daily Wire Plus member, go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code DEI for 35% off new annual memberships right now. Your Daily Wire Plus membership also gets you instant access to uncensored ad-free daily shows from the most trusted voices in conservative media, live breaking news, and of course, the cultural phenomenon, What is a Woman? Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code DEI for 35% off your new annual membership right now. Finally, we've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. This mailbag is brought to you by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Knowles. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Take it away.
Hey, Michael. Got a good hypothetical for you. Would you, for $10 million tax-free, punch the ticket for Kamala Harris? A good hypothetical is supposed to make you teeter on the fence on which way to go. So if that didn't do it, same thing. For $10 million, punch the ticket for Kamala, but it's guaranteed Trump's going to win. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Duh. You think I'm stupid? Of course I would. You just said a good hypothetical makes you teeter on the fence. I'm not teetering on the fence for 1 nanosecond. Yeah, of course I would. Especially because of how you clarified at the end. You said, guaranteed Trump wins. Would you punch the ticket for Kamala? You get $10 million. What's the catch? Yeah, of course I would. Why? I guess the question is, why would anyone teeter on the fence? I'm not saying I'd sell you my vote in that I'd sell you my integrity and I'd go work for people that I disagree with and I'd go advance a political cause that I think is bad. I'm not saying any of that. You just said, guaranteed Trump wins. And even further, you could say, look, if you live in a solidly red state, one person doing that doesn't actually change the vote at all. The reason that you're even suggesting that's a morally difficult conundrum is because you are viewing the vote as a lot of liberals view the vote, and many conservatives view the vote too, as some good in and of itself, as some kind of holy act, some kind of sacrament. I don't think the vote is some holy act. I don't think it's a particularly good thing in itself. It can be good, but if it's good, it is good instrumentally. The only reason that voting is good or can be good is if it gives you good government, if it is conducive to the common good and the flourishing of the polity. But that's it. It's just for that. So if I know Trump is guaranteed to win and voting is just, I don't know, some little recreational activity that we're going to partake of today, yeah, sure. I'll write in Mickey Mouse if you want for $10 million. Why not? The common good is not harmed. Voting is not an intrinsically morally significant act if it is disconnected from the way the government actually is to be selected and to operate. And I could do a lot with $10 million. So yeah, easy. No question. Next one.
Hi, Michael. Happy Friday. My husband and I are approaching our 2-year anniversary, and although we're really excited, this will also be the 2-year marker of us trying to conceive. It's been an emotional roller coaster for me, but my husband has been incredibly supportive this entire time. My first question is, what are some ways that I can best support him? My second question, how can I carry my cross well? Growing up, my dad would always tell me to offer it up, but I've always wondered, does uniting my suffering to Christ mean that I can't cry or be sad? Thank you for your insight.
Well, I'm terribly sorry to hear about that. That's really an awful thing. In fact, I know a little bit what you're going through because my wife and I, for the first 2 years of our marriage, struggled to have our first kid. So I know it's brutal. And if people have not gone through it, it's very difficult to understand how brutal that is, especially on the woman, a little bit on the guy too, but especially on the woman. So, first of all, the sky is not necessarily falling down on you. I know it's awful, but it took us 2 years. You could very easily, or it's very easy to imagine that you would become pregnant at any moment, today, tomorrow. There are certain treatments you can engage in. Some probably you would say are bioethically unacceptable, and I would agree with that, like in vitro fertilization or, all the rest. But there are other things you could do. My wife ended up, I think she got like one shot or a series of shots of some chemical or hormone or something for a week, and then it was all fine. So you could try something like that. You could go meet with a specialist. Maybe you're already doing that. That's not really your question. Your question is, how do you carry that cross? Is it okay to cry? It's okay to cry. If you're a woman, certainly. But even if you're a man, on rare occasion, it's okay to cry. You can be sad, but also you should offer it up. Jesus wept, right? When you say offer it up, unite your suffering to the cross. Jesus wept. It's the shortest line in the Bible. So you can, but don't dwell on your suffering as it pertains to you. Don't dwell on your misfortune. You have many blessings, obviously. And so you should focus on those things, and you should focus on the activity of attempting to conceive, if that's what you'd like to do. And then you can focus on other ways, if somehow you can't conceive, and you could adopt. If you can't adopt, you can focus on the other ways in which you can offer up of yourself for others and take on some kind of role of motherhood and guidance of others. There's no good that will come of focusing on your own misery, because that will make you resentful. But if you just are a little bit sad sometimes, that's okay. You can be sad. Just don't despair. As long as your sadness still has an aspect of hope to it, hope, which is a theological virtue and a commandment, I think that's perfectly acceptable. But keep hope, because there is very likely a way, or very possibly a way, out of your present predicament. But ultimately, God orders the universe for his ends, and his ends are good. So ultimately, it will be good. You can have confidence in that, not just as a little soft soap and wishful thinking, but as a fact. Next question.
Hi, Michael. I really love your show, and I'm going to try to make this shorter, so maybe you can use it. So basically, I have 3 kiddos. One of them is, he's 11. He can't control his body, his movements sometimes, his voice, things like that, and that can make it really hard at church. And we've had some experiences where we weren't welcome at church, but it's so important for him to have that relationship with his community and with Jesus. I mean, that's the only way he's going to thrive and overcome, because that's what God created him to be, as an overcomer. So I just wanted your thoughts on special needs kids and individuals in church services. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bring them to church. Simple. This is another one like the, would you take $10 million to vote for Kamala if there were no consequence to it? Yeah, bring them to church. Of course, bring them to church. If some guy's going to make a nasty comment or look at you, tell him to go pound sand. You can do it in a really nice, charitable, sort of collegial way. But no, the kid should be at church, of course. Especially that kid should be at church. That's just a more extreme version of the typical question that crops up in modernity, where children are a rarity, which is, should I bring my crying toddler, my whining child to church? Yeah. If the parish ain't crying, it's dying, buddy. Of course you should bring them to church. I don't even like the idea of a cry room or a special place that's hermetically sealed where people who make noises or little babies or whatever can be walled off. No, bring them into church. Obviously, if there's a particular outburst, maybe you got to walk over to the side or down the stairs a little. But if it's just a little bit of noise from a condition that your child, or really all little babies, can't control, yeah, forget about that. Maybe tell some of your fellow congregation to remember what church is. Marriage, family, is a symbol of Christ's love for his church. It's the mystical body of Christ with all of us. It's not so that you can wear your favorite suit on Sunday and sit really quietly and rigidly and then go out and eat eggs afterward. It's about communing with God. It's about worshiping God. It's about the holy sacrifice of the Mass. It's about the graces that abound. It's about the people who need God most being able to go there and to witness the sacrifice. Forget about those guys. Next one.
Hey Michael, this is Daniel. I'm 18, and unlike many of my friends, I never dated in high school, not out of my own choosing, but because my feelings were never reciprocated. I'm tired of hearing cheesy phrases like be content with being single before starting a relationship, as this feels empty and generally comes from people who aren't single. In Genesis, God says it's not good for man to be alone, but that's what I am, alone. My efforts to start a relationship with someone have led to nowhere. I'm tired of feeling lonely, but I don't know what to do. I figured I'd ask you for advice on how to handle where God has me currently. Thanks.
Really good question. Sorry to hear you're feeling lonely. I think probably most people feel lonely these days, so you're at least lonely together. I'm glad to hear you say, I'm sick of hearing platitudes about how I need to be comfortable being single before I can start a relationship. No, that's liberal modern propaganda. That's a bunch of claptrap. As you say, man is not meant to be alone. We know who we are, we know our identity in relation to others, ultimately in relation to God. But it's not just about you, me, your own individual choices. Even in your most quiet hour, when you are most seemingly alone, you are in relationship with God. So yeah, forget about that. I think it's good for people to be in relationships for a long time. You know, I married my high school sweetheart. I think shared experience is a lot. It helps mold you. It helps you to become who you really are as a person. There's got to be, to use the phrase of Fulton Sheen, 3 to get married. You both have to have reference to God and a relationship with God. And for the people who are listening who are secular or otherwise non-religious, substitute out the word God for a description of God, which is the truth. The two of you have to be in constant relationship with the truth, because the truth is objective and real and will ground you and help you grow together. It will help you to grow toward each other, but also to grow toward God, toward becoming the people that you want to be. So what do you do about being lonely? Well, you go figure out a way to get a girlfriend. That's how you do it. Maybe you want to be celibate. Maybe you want religious life. And so you want to mitigate your loneliness directly through a relationship with God. That doesn't sound like what you're talking about here, though. It sounds like you want a girlfriend. Okay, go get a girlfriend. How are you going to get a girlfriend? Well, where do people meet people? They meet people, well, you could meet people at church. There, you know you're going to share your beliefs with people there. Or you could ask your friends and relatives, hey, set me up with somebody. Or you could go to a bar. You know, plenty of people have met at bars. I don't know that it's a little hit or miss, sure. You could be on the apps. I think there are good ways to deal with the dating apps. Wouldn't be my preference, but we live in modernity. That's one way to do it. You could go join a club. You go to the places where you meet girls. That's what you do. No, don't just wait around and say, oh, I'm gonna figure out how great it is to be single and I'm gonna be my own perfect individual before I go. No, forget about that. Go meet a girl. It's fun to date people. So go do that. It's okay. You could do that. What, you're not confident enough? All right, well, work on that a little. I don't know. Go figure out how to comb your hair right. Recognize that if you want to be impressive to women, don't focus on yourself and all the things you're going to say and all the little tricks you're going to pull out. You want to know how to impress women? Focus on them. This is true just in general. You have a happier life. You focus on the other person, what interests you about that person, how you can help that other person, what you can learn from that other person. It's fun. That makes dating fun. That's what I would do. But yeah, you're right. Modernity is totally wrong about basically everything. So good, go find a girlfriend. All right, that's our show. I do not have an iPad. We are not doing Member Block today. I'm informed by Mr. Davies, which is good because I sound like Peter Brady with my voice cracking. I don't know what's going on today. I've been talking too much, sleeping too little, but we do have our cigars in 4 shops here in Florida, which is great. I will see you back in Nashville. I'm Michael Knowles. I'm Peter Brady. My voice is all over the place, but perhaps it will sound better on Monday. See you there.
The question everyone in America is asking,
am I racist?
Make those moves.
Get a Daily Wire Plus membership to see Am I Racist?
This is all I have. Did you want to?
I can help you guys out.
Yeah.
Go to AmIRacist.com and sign up now.
I've been told because I'm a white male, kind of at the top of the pile, how do I get down from the top?
I don't think you necessarily can.
How do we get past all the talk about racism?
We have to love each other.
Well, it can't be that simple. How do we get to a point of racial harmony? It's good to talk to you. We're still on a journey, all of us together.
I think you got some journeying to do.
Just talk to me about the statistics. We have an epidemic.
20 million crimes a year, 6,000, 7,000 hate crimes. No, there's no epidemic.
Why are we talking about statistics? This is not a matter of statistics.
Well, you asked me about the statistics.
Am I Racist? Coming to Daily Wire Plus on October 28th. Rated PG-13.